I never thought I'd have to kick my own family out of my house. But then again, I never thought they'd try to push me out of my own room either. I'm 26 years old, a software developer, and doing well for myself. Last year, I bought a nice 3-bedroom home in the city. It wasn't a mansion, but it was comfortable, a place I could call my own. But more than anything, it was a way for me to give back to my parents, Liz and Tom, who had spent their lives raising me and my older brother, Jake. Since they had retired from teaching, I figured moving them into the house rent-free was the least I could do. After all, they had taken care of me for so many years. Why not return the favor? They wouldn't have to worry about bills, food, or a mortgage. I handled everything. At first, everything was great. I worked from home in the 2nd bedroom, set up as my office. My parents had their own space, and we all got along fine. But then, my mother dropped a bombshell over breakfast one morning. "Jake and Emma are thinking about moving to the city," she said casually, stirring her coffee. "You know they've been struggling, and with the baby on the way, they really need help." I nodded absent-mindedly, assuming that meant they'd find an apartment nearby. But no. My parents had already decided, without even asking me, that Jake and his wife, Emma, would be staying with us. Temporarily, of course, except that word, temporary, would soon lose all meaning. A few days later, Jake and Emma arrived with their luggage in hand, looking very much like they had no plans of leaving any time soon. At first, I tried to be understanding. Jake had always been the one who struggled. While I worked my way up in my career, he bounced from one job to another, never quite landing on his feet. Emma seemed nice enough, but she had a way of making everything about her. It didn't take long before things started changing in the house. Emma, in particular, had this habit of making seemingly innocent comments that got under my skin. "This place is so big," she'd say with a sigh. "It must be exhausting for you to clean all by yourself." Or, "When the baby stuff arrives, we're going to need a lot of space." I tried to ignore it at first, but the real problem started when they sat me down for a talk. "So, we've been thinking," Emma started in a sweet voice. Jake nodded. "Yeah, it makes sense for us to take the master bedroom." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You know," Emma continued, as if it were the most logical thing in the world, "the baby is going to need a lot of stuff. And your room has the walk-in closet and private bathroom. It just makes sense." I stared at them. Were they serious? "You can just take the guest room," Jake added, as if he were doing me a favor. I let out a slow breath, keeping my voice calm. "No, you can take the guest room. It's big enough." Emma's face twisted into a frown. "But it doesn't have a walk-in closet." I was done. "You can either stay in the guest room," I said firmly, "or you can find another place to live." Jake looked stunned. Emma looked outright offended. But I had made up my mind. Over the next few days, things got worse. Jake and Emma made no move to leave. Instead, they acted as if my house was now theirs. Their stuff was everywhere. Emma was already talking about where they'd put the crib. I had had enough. I sat down and drafted an eviction notice. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but they left me no choice. The next morning, I slid it across the table to Jake and Emma as they ate breakfast. "You have 24 hours, I said simply. Jake's face turned red with anger. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I replied. "If you're still here tomorrow, I'm calling the police." My mother tried to intervene, her voice soft. "Honey, they have nowhere to go." "That's not my problem," I said firmly. "They never asked to move in. They just assumed. And now, they're acting like they own the place. I'm done." For the first time, I saw something shift in my mother's face. Maybe she finally realized how unfair this all was. The next morning, the house was quiet. My father sat at the table, sipping his coffee, looking deep in thought. "Jake and Emma are leaving today," he muttered. I nodded. Good. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Jake and Emma packed up and left that afternoon. They didn't say goodbye. They just loaded their car and drove away. That night, my mother knocked on my door. She sat at the edge of my bed staring at the floor. "They're gone," she whispered. I nodded. She sighed. "I never realized how much pressure we were putting on you." I looked at her, my frustration softening. "It's not that I didn't want to help, Mom, but I felt like my feelings didn't matter." "You're right," she admitted. "We took advantage of you. We thought we were helping Jake, but we were just making things worse for you." I sighed. "I don't want you and Dad to leave. But if things don't change, I can't live like this." She nodded. "We'll work it out." For the first time in a long time, I believed her. Over the next few weeks, things got better. My parents respected my space. The house felt like mine again. Then one afternoon, I got a text from Jake. "Hey, I know things got messed up. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Hope we can talk soon." I stared at the message for a while, unsure of how to respond. A part of me was still angry. But another part of me knew that setting boundaries had been the right thing to do. Finally, I typed back, "I appreciate the message. I need some time, but I hope we can talk soon. Let's catch up when we're both ready." As I hit send, I realized something important. Even family needs to earn respect. It's not something you can demand. And for the first time in weeks, I felt at peace. If you've ever felt like your boundaries were being crossed, remember, you have the right to stand up for yourself, even when it comes to family. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories like this. See you in the next one.